InvestorIdeas.com podcasts.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcast, looking at cannabis news, stocks to watch, as well as insights from thought leaders and experts. In today's podcast, I interview Tim Conder, the COO of Til Holdings Incorporated, trading on the CSE as TILT and the OTCQB as TLLTF, where we discuss some of the company's more recent news developments, as well as the cannabis industry as a whole.
So today I'm speaking with Tim Conder, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Til Holdings. Tim, it's great to be able to talk to you today. For our listeners who are maybe unfamiliar with Til Holdings, could you maybe just give a brief background of the company as well as your role within it?
Yeah, definitely. So Til Holdings was formed at the beginning of this year through a reverse merger or reverse takeover and the business combination of four existing cannabis companies. Conder Therapeutics, which was a multi-state cannabis retailer and cultivator. Brightside, which was both a e-commerce technology platform as well as had some technology in modular grow units. Baker Technologies, which is a CRM platform specifically for the cannabis industry that operated out of Denver. And Santi Veritas, which is a Canadian cultivator located up in British Columbia that was the shell company through which the RTO took place. And after the business combination and RTO, my company, Blackbird, was purchased by Tilt, and along with a couple other companies, Standard Farms and Jupiter Research. And now all those companies sort of form Til Holdings. And really what Til Holdings is a cannabis-specific holdings company that has assets across the supply chain with a core focus on technology and services offerings.
So looking at obviously what Til Holdings is focused on then, which is the sort of services and also the infrastructure elements, more focusing on the software side, how have you helped address that in the sort of those needs within the market? And also, what are the biggest gaps you're seeing within the cannabis industry with regards to sort of technology and software usage?
Yeah, definitely. So that's really something that Blackbird, the company that I brought into Til Holdings, was seeking to address, was a lot of these inefficiencies or gaps, specifically in the supply chain. That's also something that Jupiter Research addresses through, their vaporization technology. And really what we're looking to do is make sure that operators have all the tools that they need to succeed in the sort of rapidly growing cannabis space through these technology and services offerings. So it really is about making sure that to sort of ease pain points in the cannabis supply chain.
And are there specific markets in the States that you're noticing there's more opportunity with regard to that or less opportunity?
So, there's really opportunity everywhere. I think as markets come online with either medical or adult use, there's obviously a lot of opportunity in those markets to help sort of newly established operators understand and facilitate the movement of their product through the supply chain. But even in more established markets like Nevada and California, we see a lot of room for efficiencies, a lot of room for sort of to help these operators succeed.
So what specifically are a lot of those operators lacking? Is it just sort of experience with how to operate and how to have that business-to-business management, or is there actually something specific that's affecting the industry or slowing it down?
So I think the thing that would be most specific is changing regulatory environments, right? So let's use California, for example. California has had a robust medical industry for, years. And as it came online with adult use, that kind of sort of transformed the license structure. It introduced a track and trace software called Metric into the sort of daily operations of operators, and started to require, a lot more sort of specific things like RFID tags and supply chain sort of management, track and trace responsibilities to these operators that have been kind of, moving product down supply chain for a long time without any sort of these requirements. So there's just it's really a rapidly changing and evolving landscape. And anything that an ancillary company like Jupiter or Blackbird or some of our other assets like Baker can do to kind of help facilitate and ease that process is very, very well received by cannabis operators.
And is Til Holdings focused more, would you say, on the ancillary side of the industry, or are you trying to get involved on sort of all aspects of the cannabis industry?
So I would say the former. We really want to be the group of companies that best support cannabis operators. While we are a license holder today in states like Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, and up in Canada, as I mentioned earlier, we're not really looking to expand our plant touching offerings. And the great thing about those licenses and those companies that are within the Til portfolio is they provide, one, some free cash flow, and two, a perfect testing ground for us to sort of perfect and refine our software and services and hardware offerings.
So looking at maybe the sort of long-term development of the industry, is Tilt going to be focusing on other acquisitions within the ancillary space? And where do you see sort of the gaps within the sort of Til Holdings framework right now, or what sort of elements are you looking to include in the future?
Gosh, it's interesting, right? I mean, today I don't really see a lot of gaps. There are, a lot of really wonderful technology companies that are focused in the cannabis space. So, I think there will be an opportunity in the coming months and years to sort of align ourselves with many of those companies, either in strategic partnerships or through acquisition. We're not really looking at any specifically right now, and we're really looking to kind of focus on the entities that we currently have in the portfolio, make sure that we're integrating those entities in sort of a substantial and powerful way for our clients. And then we'll sort of look outside of our own businesses to see what the gaps, where we can fill the gap.
As a lot of these programs are sort of been outputted in both the U.S. and somewhat in Canada and internationally, where are you looking right now as far as the biggest sort of market expansion in a short term? Is it in the U.S., or do you find, has the Canadian market slowed down, or is there more growth in international spaces like the EU or Latin America right now?
So, there's a lot of expansion opportunity right here in the U.S. So we're definitely focused there with certain assets, specifically Blackbird and Baker. But Jupiter is already selling products globally, and I think some of the markets that they're most excited about are the EU and South America, as those markets have huge revenue potential and really kind of robust markets sort of emerging, as we speak. So those are really exciting places for them. And also Canada, I think it really is about the population base, as well as the country, continent, or region's sort of acceptance and regulation around these products. So there's kind of a lot of factors that play into it, but they're all exciting markets. But globally, the EU and South America and Canada are really, really exciting for Jupiter Research.
When looking for Jupiter as well, were they impacted much by sort of the misinformation going around with the vape industry right now, and how much did they have to really deal with that, or even sort of comment on it?
Yeah, initially they were not affected to a high degree. I think, unfortunately, I think all regulated vaping companies have sort of since been impacted. The vaping crisis took a really, took a really, fast and furious path. And so I think all vaping companies have been affected to some degree. And that means that Jupiter is thus affected just because of their reach with vaporization companies. But we're already seeing that recover in really positive ways, especially as information and research is done around sort of the cause of these illnesses. And that's, one thing that Jupiter has always really built their business on is this core focus on safety. And so, while the business was somewhat affected from a revenue standpoint, we consider it sort of our responsibility to make sure that these products are as safe as possible for consumers and sort of understand the short-term financial impact, but are more focused on the sort of long-term benefits of these products to consumers worldwide.
Did that also affect your other businesses, as in like the Blackbird, where you're tracking the sort of seed to sale of a product? Did you find that there was more demand for companies now to be involved in that type of software technology as safety and sort of quality controls become more of an issue in the cannabis space?
I mean, so it's been such a short amount of time. We really didn't see any effects in our other business units. However, it definitely sparked conversations around just what you're describing, which is the ability for software and technology to help keep people safe and help the consumer and provide the consumer total access into their own products supply chain, right? Like, I always kind of liken that to organic foods. I want to know where my food comes from, and I want to know that because I want to, sort of be sure that what I'm eating is safe. And I feel the exact same way about consumer packaged goods, like vape hardware and vape oil. I want to know, who's that the person producing that oil is a licensed producer. I want to know what ingredients they're putting into my cartridge. I want to know that my cartridge can't be tampered with, and I want to know that my cartridge is manufactured in the safest possible way. And that's something that supply chain technology can help provide optics into.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any expectation on any of the states that you're currently in adopting some sort of policy to enforce a seed to sale tracking system or anything along those lines? I know that a lot of companies are doing this, but a lot of things in the states right now aren't actually really required. It's more of an optional choice for the company. Is there expectation on any of those states looking to actually enforce this and make sure that this is a requirement for any legal company?
Yeah, so many of the states already require track and trace software. So sort of the difference between track and trace software and seed to sale is that, it is required by the state, and it's not really a commercially available software. So probably the most prolific software of that nature is a company called Metric. Metric is the state track and trace in Nevada and California and Colorado and several other states. And so it's imperative that inventory tracking softwares like Blackbird integrate seamlessly with that state track and trace environment, so that, all of the information that the state regulatory bodies are getting, consumers are also able to receive. So yeah, there's a lot of conversation around how states keep people safe, and I think it's imperative that technology providers like Til are, join in that conversation and even lead it, because, the fact of the matter is that we can move faster in most cases than state agencies, and really help support them in their efforts around safety.
So just in final thoughts then for investors as well, looking at Til Holdings, what can they sort of expect over the next coming months? And what are the biggest expectations you're looking for in the industry, or just in general from the cannabis sector over the next few months?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a cannabis sector in general, I think investors can look for long-term and rapid growth, right? I think cannabis is still the fastest growing industry in the world, and I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. And for Til Holdings specifically, we're looking to hitch our wagon to that growth through our software services and hardware offerings. So I think that investors can expect to see from Til a refined focus around just that, technology and innovation, and our continued scaling to support brands worldwide.
Thank you so much for talking today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Once again, that was Tim Conder, the COO of Til Holdings Incorporated, trading on the CSE as TILT and the OTCQB as TLLTF. If you wish to find out more about Til Holdings Incorporated, you can click the link attached in the article or visit their website at tiltholdings.com. That's all for today's podcast, and enjoy the rest of your Monday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.